while our jobs all have meaning, even if it doesn't connect with us, it may be the output of our jobs, the money, which then creates an opportunity for us to support our family, care for our family. Yes. And frankly, if I was to take a big wild guess, I would say most people in the world, their number one purpose is family. Like that's a large reason why they do what they do. And that's nothing wrong with that. We were talking about it before the show, but it reminds me of Viktor Frankl. And he said, in his book, Man's Search for Meaning, you can find purpose in three ways. It can be through the work or deeds that we do. It can be through the relationships that we have, which might be family, or even our relationship as a manager or leader, how we support those people around us. And then he said how we view unavoidable suffering was the third one, which can be faith. It can be our faith and our perspective on life. So here's my kind of challenging question for you. Can we have our purpose and calling change throughout life? And part of the reason why I think of that is I think of people going through different seasons. You're single, you might have one kind of purpose. Then you become a couple and you have another sense of purpose. And then you have children and you have another sense of purpose. And then you become a grandparent, and then purpose lights up in a different way, at least from a personal standpoint. So I'd be curious to your reflections on purpose being kind of an iterative, ongoing, creative project that can shape over time.
Oh, I think that's right. I think it can change over time. It often does change over time as we develop. I think, I can't prove it. I think there's a sort of an inner core, though. I think there is something inside of us that wants to become something. And we're designed in particular ways. James Hillman, formerly of the Young Institute, talked about what he called the acorn concept. An acorn wants to become a oak tree. He didn't say wants to become an oak tree, but an acorn's been, the purpose of an acorn is to become an oak tree. I think there's something to that, but it does change over time. It does develop and grow. There are life stages. I think you're absolutely right. And by the way, you mentioned relationships. I haven't talked much about relationships. But relationships are a key part of the meaning we find in our work. Relationships with our coworkers and the people we're providing goods and services for, and people we work with, and these are important. Michael Novak said something like, "More and more work is for and with other people." I think he also said something along the lines of that. As we work together in pursuit of a common purpose. I don't know if he said this or I read it into what he said. I should be more careful, I guess. But we develop community as we work together towards a common purpose, and I think that's so important in our work lives.
Yeah, and I think also evolving and changing and maybe a bit more challenging as people working remotely. It's just not the same type of connection. It's not the same type of community. I had a client of mine, and she was, during the pandemic, we had calls, and she said, I used to view my community as all the people I worked with. I would go to work every day and I'd work with all these people. It was my community. She said now, it was during the pandemic, she said, I'm at home with my husband and my two little kids. That's really become my community. Now work is just a job. And it was interesting how that changed just because of her physical proximity. It changed how those relationships felt to her, which is a challenge, I think, for us today.
Yeah, it is. And the new communications tools that we're using often do require us to work harder at community with our coworkers.
Yeah.
And it does present some particular challenges.